My name is Teresa. I've been a fan for about 9 years, pretty much. I stopped for a couple years and then I'm like easing back in right now. One of my favorite artists is Jay Park. He's been he's my bae in middle school. And not really, no, whatever. And one of my favorite girl groups would have to be 21, which is really fierce.
Well, my name's Abby. I'm 20. I've been a fan of the industry more so 9 years, also kind of taking like a break here and there and going back in. My favorite artists would be like Dean, the rapper, Jay Park as well. Also Girls' Generation, EXO, Beast are some of my favorite groups.
So my name is Lexa. I'm 20 years old. I have been a fan since 7th grade. Yeah, 7th grade. Don't know how many years that is. But yeah, my favorite girl group would have to be 21, and favorite boy group will be Big Bang.
Thanks.
Yes.
My name is Shania. I'm 19, and some groups that I like are Beast, and then I like Big Bang too. And I have like a few girl groups, like 21, and I like A-Pink sometimes.
So the next question is, why are you fans of K-pop? What caught your eyes about it? Was it the music? Was it the groups themselves, how they looked? Certain members, things like that. So whoever wants to start.
I can start.
Oh.
Are you sure? Okay. Okay, well, I got into K-pop because one of my friends showed me a music video way back in middle school, and like, I'll be honest, what got me like really hooked was just that it was a boy group, and I'm pretty sure it was Big Bang, but it could have been someone else. Just their looks were really attractive, on top of their really talented singing ability, and just all of that combined with like the shiny, glitzy music videos, which are very high quality.
Yeah.
It just kind of blew me away because it's not something I've ever seen, like at least in American music. So it was different and it was unique, and there were attractive faces, and so that's what initially got me into the industry. Yeah.
For me, it was probably my sister, because she was like really boy crazy when we were like a lot younger. So like I remember her like watching all these music videos, and then like we would literally go through like their profiles just to find out their names, because we really liked them, because they were like, you know, cute and all that stuff, and they do have really good vocals. And along with like you, we don't really see those kind of type of music videos in the American industry, so it's like a lot different. So I think like their type of like genres are different too, so I think that's why I like K-pop songs.
I think for me, so like I'm from Indonesia, and K-pop like really boomed in Indonesia. Like the first song that I heard was like "Sorry Sorry" by Super Junior, and like the dance moves were so like attractive. Like I still like, remember it, like even now. But I didn't get like really hooked until one of my best friends, she's like a really big K-pop fan, and then she started like inviting me to come over to watch Running Man, and so I got to know like a lot of Korean artists, and then I got hooked to Big Bang. Like Fantastic Baby was like one of the first songs that got me into Big Bang, and then I feel like just seeing like their whole like music video, like it's definitely something that I've never seen before, and like all the crazy hairstyles, and it's just so cool, and also like the music, like the beat, it just gets you going. So
for me, my brother was the one who introduced me to K-pop because we went to middle school first. And and like the very first song I've ever heard was La 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 by Big Bang. And when I just saw Top, I was like, he's so mysterious. I just need to get to know him more. So then that got me hooked, and then it like skyrocketed when 2 p.m. debuted. I was kind of like,
I forgot about that.
I know, it's so
They're still one of my favorites.
it's like I was like, whatever. It's 2 p.m. and then like when they came back with Again and Again, it's like, this is my jam. And then just like from then on, I became a really devoted fan, and I feel like just that year in general, a lot of good groups came out, and that just like made me like get into that.
The next question is, as you were becoming fans, when did you start to notice that, it wasn't all that it was cracking up to be? Like, it wasn't just this surface level, like, these amazing groups with amazing videos and these beautiful people, like, those troubling qualities of K-pop.
I feel like when it really hit me the most was when Jay Park left, because he said he hated Korean people on the internet. And
that scandal that he had.
Yeah, and that just like made me really upset, because I was like, my computer broke, and this is what happens. And then like also when DBSK disbanded. And then like the issue came up where they were talking about how SM Production Entertainment, like there's the big drama around that too. Kind of like made me see like, oh damn, it's not good.
Yeah, I think like as I grew older, like seeing all my favorite groups like disband, it was like really sad. So like that's why I would like wonder like, oh, like why did they break up or something? Cause like I don't know if you guys know Block B. Yeah, cause I think they like stopped like producing music for a while because they didn't get paid, and so they were like suing each other or something like that. But yeah, I think like now I see it like more common, like that it like comes up more often. But back then I feel like I was like still a lot younger, so I didn't like really like notice anything just because I liked them solely for the music.
Yeah, I think for me it was, I kind of found out pretty quickly after I had gotten into K-pop, like maybe within the year, but I think part of it was that I was in middle school, so I was young, and it wasn't something that I really had thought about, and I was like, wow, like that's horrible that they do that, but I mean, they still like crank out these really great groups, but then I don't think it really hit me until I really just matured, and it was my senior year of high school actually where it got brought up in class for a project kind of like this. Yeah, so we actually had a whole class discussion about it, and I think just the fact that I had matured, and I'd become more conscious to some of the things that were happening in society, and just learning about the way that they treat their performers and things like that, it really opened my eyes to why am I still like a fan of this industry even though they do things like this.
I think for me, like I also realized pretty early on because like as I said before, like I knew K-pop because of Running Man, and like I've started to see like in Running Man, like there's like, I mean, it's a reality show, but like so many things are scripted, including like sometimes they would bring up how like, oh, like this celebrity can't date like other celebrities for whatever reason and that sort of thing. And I started to like get into it, and I started to search for it. But I think like same with Abby, like I didn't like really think about it much because like they're cool, like they're pretty, like what's wrong with that? But I think like now, like as I've matured, I also realized that like there's a lot of like uncomfortable things to talk about like in that industry that they don't really show to the public very much, and it's always like has not been in the spotlight.
Yeah, for me, I echo a lot of that too. Like when you're younger, looking at it on the surface level, you're just like, wow, they have everything. Like they're really beautiful, they have all these fans, and they probably make a whole bunch of money because, like it's just so amazing what they're doing. And then for me also, like getting older, you sort of like do more research and you start actually liking those like K-pop sites that like run out all these articles about the groups, right? So it wasn't just listening to the music and watching the groups. It's like I want to be submerged in what they're doing and know what they're doing, and then in doing that, you sort of realize the troubling stuff that they go through. But then it also opened my eyes when I was that fan where it's like, I want to know how do you get there? Like, how do you do this? What goes into this process? And then that opens a whole can of worms. The next question is just the road to stardom, right? So the management, there's just a lot of comparison of them to being just factories. They churn out their girl or boy groups one after another, some even just like in a year span of each other. And then you learn that like within this whole process, these young people, sometimes even from the ages of like 9, so they're in 3rd grade, basically starting the process. They train long hours and they have to balance school and going to the companies. And then the fact that they have to isolate themselves from their friends and their family, and then doing this process for 5 to 7 years, right? Depending on how long each of these companies want their training to be, and then so they're sacrificing a lot, and then they also have to realize that like that day might never come. What do you all think about that? Just the whole process to get there.
I feel like you have to be very devoted and very passionate.
Yeah.
And be very confident in yourself in order to like go through that process, because it's like most of the entertainment industry, it's not like you're going to make it. It's really like trying to build on your potential.
Yeah.
And then for the K-pop, I feel like on the consumer side, like everything that they put out is always like on point. So we're always like, even though it's a very harsh condition, like it pays off in the end, because I feel like for them, like it's really revolved around the fans, and that's what makes like everybody want to be a part of that. Because if they said something wrong, then they're like, oh, I'm sorry, it was my fault, and that's why you feel that way. But for like over here, even if it was their fault, they're like, well, it's my show, I could cancel it, whatever. But then like they would have come back and apologized, like, oh, I'm sorry, I was sick, and even though I was sick, it was my fault for being sick, so I'm sorry, like I couldn't, make it to the performance. So it just makes you feel more special, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think building off of what Teresa was talking about is that like the industry is really oriented around, well, money of course, but they're also really oriented around the fans. And one thing that K-pop is really known for is just how on point they're singing and they're dancing. Everything is so perfectly synchronized that of course they have to go through some sort of really hard training in order to be so good. But it's because the fans, that's what we demanded, which is also kind of like a darker reality to that too. And it is just it's kind of sad just knowing that someone can go through that process to work and train so many long hours and work so hard, but they could be told at any moment, that actually we're not going to put this group together, like this idea is disbanded, or that you're just not quite there, like you haven't quite made the cut, so I'm sorry. And it really is just a harsh thing for some of these young people to go through, I think.
Well, let's see. The next question is, so we all know that K-pop isn't all that it's cracked up to be now that we're a little bit older and we've been seeing how the industry is. Some points that we all probably know is like, okay, one, a lot of these groups when they start out, they're not paid that much really because they're owing this debt back to the company for dedicating all the money into their training all these years, and apparently the cost is about $100,000 a year to train these individuals. So multiply that over 5 to 7 years, they have a lot to make up to the company. There's also like a lot of these unfortunate events that happen to these idols. Like there are a number of videos on YouTube that show that like some of them faint on stage because of just how tired they are, and then some who are like the main dancers of these groups, they get injured because they do all these elaborate moves and fall on stage and just really get hurt really badly. And then on the other side of the spectrum where the big extreme, especially like these last like 2 years, was the deaths of Eunbi and Rise from the girl group Ladies Code. And this happened because they were rushing to get to another scheduled event later that evening during this really rainy, it was a rainy evening, and they're driving on the freeway. They crashed, and these two unfortunately died due to it. So hearing all of that, what are your thoughts on those? And do you think that is the industry noticing the troubling things that they're doing and are trying to make it better? So
I don't know because I haven't researched this as much recently, but I'm not sure if the industry is really aware of what's happening, because I honestly feel like, they're a company. Their goal is to factorize these different groups and pump them out, so really what they're worried about is the money that they're making, and I really don't think that they are thinking a lot about the health and the safety of their groups and their singers and their talents. Yeah. So that's really concerning to me as someone who has been, a really big fan of this industry, but I just don't know how I can support a process that really treats their workers initially almost like they're dehumanizing them, sort of, and it's their main priority is just supposed to be the face out there so that they can rack in the money for these industries, and it's just not very healthy to me. I also remember when the news of that tragedy came out, and I remember reading a lot of things, and there's a lot of sympathy, coming from their fans and things like that, but also I don't think it was a lot of the articles, but I did read a few where it mostly just talked about, well, what's next for Ladies Code, and it's really, and it's this is what you're thinking of right now. So kind of looking at that from a sort of dirty business standpoint, just okay, well, we lost 2 quality people, but we have to continue, making music and things. What can we do next? And that's also just part of the whole dehumanizing the scenario that just played out. So
going off of that, I guess dehumanizing them, it does kind of look that way, because if you were to see some of the K-pop group that have had members leave, they're easily able to just replace them. Wonder Girls, when one of the girl left, they're oh, just bring in this girl, and you was kind of, as a fan, it was kind of whoa, you're not one of the original members, so it kind of threw you off. But then for some reason the fans just accepted it. But I feel comparing it to Western culture, if that were to happen, then everybody would be kind of mad and just a lot of very negative, And I also feel the company themselves, they don't really get that much backlash, whereas if something happened to the artist, I feel the netizen would be more angry at the artist, not the company. So then they don't really need to deal with anything. And I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. You're all good. Those are good points.
Yeah, because I think for one of the groups, Kara, one of their members left, and then I just heard news oh, audition for Kara, he can
I know they had a whole TV show to find this member.
Yeah, which is really strange, because just what Teresa was saying, it is kind of weird to see a new face in the group, because let's say if Big Bang GD left, and we're trying to find a new person to replace him, it's you can't ever replace this person, so it's really weird. Yeah, because I feel they're always worried about just losing money, so they're always just trying to
It was also weird how a bunch of new members started coming into after school. I was I didn't know we needed 3 new members when I was already 6. That was also weird.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think I really agree with the point that because they were factorized, they all of them went probably through the same training, things like that, so they're easily replaceable, and I think that's, I don't know, because I feel like as fans we do have like that personal connection with the celebrities, but I think the K-pop companies, they do a really good job in like also I don't know, like trying to I don't know how to say this, but like when you said like oh yeah, they had TV shows to have like the search for like this new member, like that way like fans can also have that personal connection because they felt like they went through like a journey of like finding that new member. So like I feel like the companies has a good way of like building that relationship with like the new members, so that we don't feel cheated in a way that like a member left or like a member died or things like that. So yeah, and like I feel like they also probably do like a very strict job in like publication. So like things like, you know, the death that they don't want to talk about, like they probably like spent a lot of money on that to like not be talked about at all, like everywhere in the web. So yeah, I feel like it is a factory, and it is very like disheartening to like think about it and like still be a fan at the same time.
Where like there are a lot of members who just want to leave, and so they want to sue the companies and get out of their contracts, right? And then for me anyways, I see articles write it blaming the artists.
I've seen a lot of this too.
Like even like yelling at them, like why are you leaving the group, blah blah blah, like you shouldn't be doing that. But then on this other side, you're just like, hey, like you shouldn't be doing that. Like they're leaving because they don't feel like they're treated well, and like they're leaving because they don't have freedom, and like we all see this, but then we yell at them for wanting to leave, for wanting to make their lives better, you know. Okay. So the next question is just the treatment of women in the industry. So as we know, it seems like most of the girl groups start with this angelic, almost childlike concept to them, and then on top of that, they are also sort of underlying like sexiness that's supposed to be like there as well. And then when you think about it, it's really troubling because there's that, you know, behind the screen of just like the pedophile like aspect to it that can happen and can evolve around these young women as they're, you know, trying to get into the industry. And then there's also other parts where there's a double standard that occurs for women in the industry because of the culture itself, where women are expected to act polite, they're good-mannered, and they're like delicate little flowers. And if they don't do that, then it's considered a big scandal, and it can be anything from like just dating someone to just like, I don't know, speaking their mind about something. And then because of this, it hurts their ability to work as an artist for quite a long time. Like it carries on for like months and months and months. And then so just going off of that first, like do y'all see that there's more scandals with female groups and idols or male groups and idols? And you know, where's that how do you see those playing out when we speak about scandals in the industry?
Well, I think that just for women in general, but also especially in the music industry, it's a really complex environment because women have such a double standard. If you're too nice, you're a prude, and then if you like give off these kind of fierce like vibrations, sometimes that could be taken as like ignorant and even like slutty. So it's almost like no matter what they would do, there's going to be some type of critique on them. And I think going back towards what you were talking about earlier with the kind of angelic, like baby face kind of phase that a lot of the girl groups start off in, not only does it give off that sort of like pedophile nature, but it also kind of supports that unfair like male gaze towards the Asian female. And so that's just a couple things that are kind of wrong there. That's just a little bit of what I wanted to share.
Yeah, I think it's like really weird how like they always make like, I'm pretty sure at least like once in their music career, like they all have one music video where they're dressed in like girl outfits, which is really weird because then like they kind of like sexualize that too, so it's kind of like odd because like it is like the music videos, like the filters and all that makes it look really angelic and all that, but then it's like, oh, like why are they being portrayed like in a sexual like odd way like this, like I don't really get that, so yeah,
that's a good point. Lexi or Teresa, anything you want to
I'm
add?
still thinking.
Yeah. I think of like a good group to look at that really, with the concept of just childlike and like, you know, being just girls, it's like Girls' Generation, even in their name, like they can never get rid of like that part of their identity as a girl group. Like for the longest time it was always that they were just good girls and, you know, just really, really girly. But like if they wanted to be sexy or grow up and mature from their concepts, it's like really hard. And like let's face it, they're all like in their like mid-20s right now, almost to their 30s, and they can't get rid of like these girl images, the little girl images that they have. And so I'm just like, it's very stunting to them as artists who want to mature and want to like have their music grow with them and speak to their experiences. So I'm hoping that I think it's getting a little better. They're able to have more freedom as they're getting more popular. The industry lets them have a little bit more freedom to play with. So
yeah, I feel like the only girl group that has stuck to like that like childlike theme is like probably A-Pink. Like I feel like they're just always like really like girly and like fun and flirty in a way, but it's like in a cutesy way, which is like kind of weird though, because like I think I've seen articles, I'm not really sure, but I think I've seen articles like asking the question like, oh, when is A-Pink gonna come back, like is gonna have a comeback with a sexy concept. It's like kind of weird that they're expecting that, so it's like that's like just weird to me to like trying to grasp the idea of it is like really weird to me because like it's just weird overall. Yeah.
I think with like the growth of the global fan base, they have to kind of change their way of I guess their concept in order to catch other people's attention. So like for Western, I feel like some of them are becoming more sexualized, but at the same time they still have to keep that youthful look for the Korean aspect of it. So that kind of like the merging of the two kind of like throws people off, because it's kind of like this really sexy young lady, but it's kind of like weird because you look really young. So like it's like those girls here that put a lot of makeup on and they look really good, and then you know you're a grown man and you're like, oh, I want to go talk to that girl, and you're like flirting with her, trying to get her pants, and then you realize what her age is. You're like, oh my god, and then you like walk the other way, and you're just like, I can't believe I just did that. And that's kind of how they are.
I think that like a lot of the girl groups, for me, the way that I see it, I think that a lot of the girl groups have it harder because they, just being women, they have a lot of different expectations of, you know, what their image is supposed to be like. And just like you said earlier, if they start out in that kind of like angelic baby face kind of concept, it is really hard for them to break away from that and try something different and just to be able to grow as artists, because they're women, they're often sexualized and objectified, and I'm sure it's not going to be hard to find clips from music videos being able like to prove that, just in the way that like their bodies are positioned, the way that they interact with like the male counterparts that they always have in their music videos. So I just feel like the standard for women in K-pop is always held very, very high, and it always seems like they can't quite meet the standard of everyone.
I feel like talking about music videos in like K-pop, I feel like it's probably still has the same standards as like Western music videos as well, because like I mean stereotypes, like gender stereotypes are still portrayed, because like for example like Fantastic Baby, like with GD like on top of a throne, that sort of thing, like I mean that's like okay, like guys are portrayed as kings, like kings of the world, you know. And like I remember in like one of the newer Big Bang videos there was like GD that had like a girl
with
like with the chains as like a dog or something, and I remember looking at that and I was just, what is my baby doing? Cause I was really surprised by that and how they actually like have that as part of the music video, and I find that very disheartening. Like why would you still like go on to like having this stuff, like why not just like, you know, have your other things going on? Why does it have to like specifically portray women as being very submissive and also like downright like dehumanizing as well? So I think like I feel like K-pop industry still has a long way to go in terms of like the making those music videos and making sure that like it's not portraying stereotypes.
I feel like going to the part that part of the question that was talking about like pedophilia, I feel like it's more accepted in the just in general, because biologically most men are more attracted to younger women, so it's kind of like playing off of that, like, and how like the Korean concept of beauty is being very youthful, and like the more youthful you look, the more attractive you are. So that's why they like most of the Korean celebrities are they have like a more youthful look to them. And then in order to appeal to like older men, you're gonna have to act sexy, so it's kind of like in a way it plays off of that, and it's kind of weird, but it like helps bring in money, so they're gonna continue doing it, you know, because in order to bring in money, especially, or go to like, you know, geared toward men, you just have to like put a lot of like big side, you know, sex appeal.
Trying to make them this way, or like portraying them in this kind of way to like produce like to like gain money and all that. So I feel like sometimes it's not really their fault that they look young, but or like old and all that, but because like they have like the younger girl groups where they look older, and then they're like portraying them in like this sexy way, and then like other viewers they comment like, oh, that girl's like only 16, like why are you guys making her look like this? It's like, oh, like that's gross, you know. So yeah.
An outlier to that would be Amber. I feel like that's what threw all of us off, because they made her dress like a boy, and like when I first saw her, I was like, oh, they have like a boy/girl group that's meshed together, and then like I realized that she was a girl, and I was like, oh, it's a girl, and like it's like very abnormal to like what their concept was, because it's like, you know, everybody around her, like all her members are like very sexualized, very cute, like Sully's really cute, Victoria was like very sexy and all that stuff, and then like there's Amber, who's very like tomboyish, and like every time they came back, she always, you know, was dressed in pants, or like pants with like a thing that kind of looked like a skirt, but not really. And like even now she's still the same way, but I remember like just listening to her in an interview, like she's like saying, oh, how she wished she had like long hair where she could dress like a girl, but just because the way they made her concept as like she can't do that, she has to stick to her role, and it took Minzy a very long time before they allowed her to like grow her hair back, and like for her to like change her concept. And for the most part, most group, the company, they have to be very tactic and really like, you know, maneuver things around in order to like change the concept as a whole in a good way, so that the fan base won't get angry at them, you know, because like during each comeback they like publicize it in a different way, you know, they overhyped it so that, or they hype it in a different way so that you're not mad that this time they're being sexy, next time they're being cute, and then the next time they're being very, very edgy and all that stuff. You know, because
Yeah.
And I will say that, like, in some instances, I could see where K-pop is trying to address that fact where, like, women don't have to be always portrayed as, like, submissive and cutesy. I mean, like, some of the things that Girls' Generation has put out has been kind of different in the way where it portrays them more as really strong and fierce women. But just the downside to that is they always relapse, and it's like, okay, well, you put out one really good song about, like, superior women and, like, building on that strength, that femininity strength, but then you just go back and you recycle all of the same cutesy artwork concepts back into the submissiveness. So it's almost like they want to try and please you for a second, to be like, no, we understand, we're gonna break away from these stereotypes for this just one moment, and then we'll go back into the things that you know, they're used to doing. So it's like, just like what Lexa kind of said a little bit ago, there's still work that has to be done in the industry.
Okay, so we're getting down to the last part of the video where you just, hearing all of this, we just have to ask ourselves now, why are we still fans of the industry? Because as fans, we help generate revenue, which always gives the management a justification to leave the industry as it is, because quote unquote, this is what the fans want. So there's that part, but then we also have to ask ourselves, like, turn it on us, like, so if we realize this, what can we do as fans to help make the industry better?
I think one of the main reasons why I still am a fan is just the amount of time and effort and the production value that they put into it. It's just like, it's not something that you usually see over here. I mean, like, because most of the time an artist would do a music video for an artistic reason, not really, I mean, it's like, that's the only time that you really see, like, a really pretty video that happens. And for K-pop, you know, you're always expected that, oh, they're gonna have really good choreography, and the music video is gonna be amazing. And then not just that, but even, like, live, you know that they're gonna be the best that they can be. Whereas, you know, over here, sometimes they lip sync. Not all singers dance, and I mean, even then, their vocals aren't always on point, and it's kind of like, in a way, it kind of ruins your experience when something like that happened. Like, just a couple days ago, or a week ago, 2 weeks ago or so, like, Kanye West just canceled his show 2 songs in because he was mad and he got into a rant and he just decided not to do it. And it's like, you know that your money is worth it because you're gonna get something back that is the best it can be.
For me, my experience is, like, a little bit different, because technically I wouldn't really label myself as a big fan of the K-pop industry, not like I was before, just because of all everything that we've shed light on in this conversation, just everything that I've learned has sort of made me draw back from the industry, and I don't really keep up to date with a lot of the new music that's coming out. I don't really keep up to date with these new groups and what they're up to, just because I don't really agree with, like, the treatment of the performers and everything that the industry kind of stands for. I do, as a consumer, I still listen to some of the music just because they do put out quality music. They produce really great, unique, beautiful music videos that keeps me hooked in that way. But I don't really support them as much as I had done in the past. What I would really hope to see is that the industry makes some changes in the way that they treat and care for their performers. And I would really hope that a lot of the K-pop fans who do understand what is going on, they do speak up. And I mean, some of them do here and there, but they get shut down really easily by those like super major K-pop fans who just want to completely dismiss everything else because they're just so caught up in the music and the glam that it is hard, to be such a long time fan of something like this, to invest a lot of your time, your money maybe, and your emotions into these groups, and it's hard to accept the harsh reality that they go through in order for them to put out such quality work, So, I'm not a very big fan myself anymore. Do I still listen to the music, watch the music videos? I do. Why? Because it keeps me entertained, and they do put out good music out there. I would just really hope that the industry understands what they're doing and that they'll take further steps to better the way that they treat their performers.
I think like for me, I have to definitely echo what like Theresa and Abby has been saying this whole time, because I think the biggest reason why I still stuck out as being a fan of K-pop is because like they do like put like quality music, everything is definitely on point, like the music video and how it's like very vivid, it's very glamorous, it's very like just about everything, and also like how they like try to appear in that music video, how they synchronize with their fellow like members. I feel that that's something that I really appreciate. And I feel like now I'm also not as like into K-pop as I was before. It's definitely like I kind of drifted away in a bit, but I still try to keep myself in the loop with all the things that has been going on. And I feel like the biggest thing that we can do as fans to like prevent the industry from like keep on doing this is to just like speak up and try to follow like their lives, I guess, and see what's wrong with it and how they're being treated. And if you don't like the way that they're being treated, just like try to speak up, even though it's hard. Like you might get shut down, as what Abby has said, but I feel like making a change has always been hard, so I feel like don't give up, even though you might get like a lot of backlash yourself as a fan. So
yeah, I agree with what you guys said too. I think one thing though is like, even if we are still like supporters of the individual singers, it's not like we support how they're being treated. So it's like, oh, you like this idol because of who they are and like the music that they produce and all that. So like you support them in that way. That's why you listen to their music. It's not like because, oh, I support that, this is how they're being treated, that's why you listen to them and stuff. But personally also, like, I'm not as big of a fan as I was back then, just because like just hearing about all the issues that is in the industry, it's very like disheartening, and it's just sad to hear about it overall, just how like these people are treated in such like cruel ways and like all these issues with the industry. So I personally like do still support the people, like the singers and all that, but I just don't really agree with how they're being treated. So yeah.
Along with that, another thing that I feel, not just me but everybody, is like the reason why they're so into K-pop and they're such devoted fans is because you don't need to, well, you do need to put a lot of time and energy into it, but at the same time they do provide you with a lot of information, a lot of like content for you to, be very engulfed in that genre of music and just that your time in general, because over in the Western music industry, you kind of have to go searching for interviews, to get to know your favorite artists, and then you don't really get to see them. Like they pop up here and there on like the Letterman show, like the very late show, or like Ellen DeGeneres and just all that stuff. It's like very, very small, minute time where you get to see them on TV and stuff. Whereas for K-pop celebrities, they're like on Running Man, they're on like, they make guest appearance on like Return of Superman, they have their own TV show. Sometimes like 2PM did, Girl Generation had a lot of TV show that they were all successful, but you used to have like places for you to like see them, and you can like go back to it weekly, and then like being able to, having it be in your routine in a way, and then having not just like the positive things, but then the negative things being talked about in K-pop celebrity too. And like, unlike most Western music industry, where it's pretty much just all like the bad, all the scandals, and that's just like how the Western culture music industry is. And like I feel like because we know so much information about them, like we know like the thing that they're going through, like it shouldn't be something we're afraid to step up and like say that it's wrong. Because if I remember correctly, like there was a time where they boycotted JYP for 2PM, I think. I'm not confident. And so like just doing that, like it really helps, you know, the company see like, oh the fan doesn't like it, like they don't actually like that. Like even if it doesn't make a huge impact, like you're coming together and you're like standing your ground and saying like, you know, this isn't right, like you shouldn't be treating like them. And like because the company is dehumanizing the idol, I feel like us as fans, we need to take a step back and then think objectively and realize that they're not that perfect person that we think that they are, and how the company represent them, because they're also human too. They're gonna make mistakes, and like even, you know, what if he got sick? It's sad that he got sick, but I'm not gonna be mad that he couldn't perform that day, you know, just like things like that. We just have to, you know, objectively think of that, because we're so I guess we're so special. We're so spoiled pretty much as fans, because everything is so like revolved around us, like everything is to please us, so we're just so used to it that we need to take a step back and stop being that spoiled brat.
And I can't like reiterate enough just how much like power fans do have, because they basically run the industry. And you know, it's kind of like if fans really cared about like the artists that they're supporting, and they understand like the treatment that they're going through, they should feel the confidence to come together and stand up and say something, because that's how change happens. Yeah.